Welcome back to the deep dive. So, if you've been feeling stuck, maybe you're caught in a cycle, stagnation, financial strain, or just this really negative identity loop, well, this deep dive is definitely for you.
Yeah, we're looking at source material that basically lays out a complete 9-point roadmap. It's for fundamental self-transformation.
And it's intense. The claim is this goes way beyond just like simple motivation tips.
Absolutely. Our mission here is to unpack this comprehensive rebuild. It starts deep with psychological architecture, moves into how you use your resources, your time, your energy,
Strategically.
strategically, yes. And it finishes with concrete physical and social actions. It's presented as a holistic system, the goal, to move you out of what the source calls the low oil state, that feeling of misery and just lack of control.
It is ambitious. I mean, it spans everything from your internal identity, who you think you are, all the way out to your external environment, your friends, how you act.
The core premise is that you can potentially shed your old life entirely by hitting these 9 areas kind of all at once.
Okay, so let's start right at the foundation, the internal structure. Point 1, let's unpack this. All right, section 1, foundational pillars, identity and mindset rewiring. This covers points 1, 6, and 7 from the source.
Point number 1, and they say this is where all change has to start, identity first.
Identity first, okay.
The argument is straightforward. Your current situation. It's a direct mirror of your deeply held self-concept. If you've internalized negative labels like if you genuinely believe you are permanently incapable or unattractive or chopped, as they put it,
Right.
that belief becomes the operating system for, well, pretty much every decision you make.
I think this is where a lot of self-help stuff maybe falls short. They focus on the action before sorting out the identity.
Exactly, because if you secretly identify as, say, a failed entrepreneur, it doesn't matter how many business books you read.
It won't stick.
It won't stick. Your core programming just rejects the possibility of success.
And what really jumped out from the material was this emphasis on childhood messaging, how far back this goes.
Oh, absolutely. That's the crucial trace element, isn't it? You might be objectively doing okay now, maybe even well. But if you got messages early on, in those formative years, that cemented negative beliefs.
Like not good enough
Or destined for struggle, not smart enough, whatever it was. Those feelings can persist even decades later. You're essentially running on an old script, maybe even a trauma response, long after the facts of your life have changed.
Okay, so how do you actually start rewriting that script? I mean,
Well-
that sounds huge. Like, where do you even begin?
Well, the first action step they propose is simple but potentially really powerful: a mental inventory.
A mental inventory.
Yeah, literally writing out those limiting beliefs. Not just the ones you're aware of, but digging for the deep, quiet fears, too. And then you play detective.
Trace their roots.
Exactly. Where did that thought really come from? Was it some throwaway comment from a kid in school? A stressed parent? Just naming the origin starts to separate the belief from the reality of who you are now.
Okay, so that inventory is step 1. And that leads into the, let's say, the heavier lifting, the rewiring process. The source actually codified this in something called the MIND formula.
Right, the MIND formula, which they apparently use in this thing called a Rebirth challenge. It's interesting because it has 3 very specific, almost technical components. It tries to connect the mind, the body, and, well, energy.
Okay, let's break that down. Component 1.
First is rewiring the mind. This involves techniques like NLP, neuro-linguistic programming,
NLP.
which in simple terms is about understanding the language your brain uses and finding ways to reframe things, especially traumatic memories or limiting beliefs, so they lose their emotional charge, their grip on you.
So NLP is like debugging your mental software, changing the internal talk, the images.
That's a good way to put it. Debugging the system. Then the second part, somatics and body work.
Somatics. Okay, this is where the body comes in.
Yes. This involves actual physical intervention. Specifically, they mentioned fascia release.
Fascia, the connective tissue.
Exactly. It's wrapped all around our muscles or organs. And in this framework, the idea is that deep emotional trauma, chronic stress, it's not just mental. It gets physically stored, like locked into the body as chronic tension patterns in that fascia.
Wow. So releasing the fascia is seen as like physically letting go of psychological baggage.
That's the concept. The body holds the score, as they say. It's quite fascinating.
It really is. And the third part, energy.
The third piece is energy. This focuses on energy centers, the auric field. It's definitely the more esoteric aspect of the formula.
Okay.
But the core idea is optimizing your personal energy flow, sort of to support and sustain this new identity you're building. The big takeaway from the mind formula, really, is that you can't just think your way out of deep-seated issues.
You have to involve the body.
You absolutely have to involve the body, which leads us neatly into point 6, mental investment and protecting that newly rewired mind.
Right. So you've done the deep work. Now, how do you maintain it?
Exactly. Investing in your mental health is framed here as a short-term, high ROI activity, like therapy, for instance.
This suggests therapy isn't necessarily forever.
Not necessarily. It can be a strategic intervention, deal with the core stuff quickly, efficiently. But mental investment also means guarding your input vigilantly.
Cutting out the cheap dopamine hits.
Yes. That constant doom scrolling, the endless feed of low-quality input, the shitty material, as the source bluntly puts it, it actively pollutes the mind, undermines the rewiring work.
But, okay, the source suggests something as simple as 10 minutes of guided meditation daily can counteract, like a lifetime of bad mental habits. How does that work? 10 minutes.
Well, it's not about instantly erasing everything. It's more about gaining control over the impulse, that urge.
Okay.
Meditation, even just for that short period, builds what you could call meta-awareness. The ability to notice when your brain is craving that hit of cheap dopamine, that distraction. It strengthens the part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, that can say, no, actually, we're not doing that right now.
It builds the veto power.
Exactly. The source mentioned that if they miss their 10 minutes, they genuinely feel sadder, more irritable, and much more likely to just mindlessly grab their phone. It's a noticeable difference.
So if the mind is polluted, the nervous system takes a hit too. And this is where it gets really, really interesting for me. Point 7, nervous system safety.
This was a big one in the source material.
Yeah, they described reaching a point where, like on paper, things were successful, but they still felt fundamentally depressed or miserable. And they traced it back to having a cooked nervous system.
A cooked nervous system, it's a visceral term, isn't it? It basically means a system stuck in chronic fight, flight, or freeze mode.
Like constantly on edge.
Constantly. Low-grade anxiety humming beneath the surface, the stress from that dopamine vortex we just talked about, unresolved past trauma. It all accumulates. The body ends up perceiving constant threat, even when you're objectively safe. And that, they argue, is a massive hidden driver of misery.
Okay, so the solution isn't just more positive thinking, it's somatic therapy again, focusing on embodied awareness.
Yes. It's not just talking about your feelings, it's actively noticing the physical sensations that go with them. Like, when discussing something stressful, do you notice your face kind of drop, your shoulders tense up, breathing gets shallow, avoiding eye contact?
Bringing awareness into the body during the difficult moments.
Precisely. And the regulation strategy they push is actually quite counterintuitive.
How so?
Well, we often think about regulating when we're already calm, right? Doing yoga, meditating in a quiet room. But the source argues the real work happens when you intervene during the heightened moment.
You mean like right when you're stressed or triggered?
Exactly. When you feel that anxiety spike, when you catch yourself scrolling into that phone vortex or frantically playing out imaginary arguments in your head, that is the moment to consciously bring awareness back. Feel your feet on the ground, notice your breath, and actively remind your nervous system, hey, we're actually safe right now.
Wow. So you practice regulating while the system is freaking out.
That's the idea. By practicing during the spike, you're essentially retraining the system to handle stress better over time. It's like strength training, but for your nervous system.
Strength training for the nervous system. I like that.
It builds systemic resilience. It's crucial.
Okay, so we've covered the internal architecture, identity, mind, nervous system. Now, how does this translate into, like, daily strategy? Jump back to point 2. The energy vortex.
Right, the energy vortex. This is about a really honest strategic analysis of where your time and energy are actually flowing day to day.
Not where you think it's going, but where it really goes.
Exactly. It's about identifying the black holes, the huge time sinks. Maybe it's a specific person who drains you. Maybe it's certain apps. TikTok was mentioned.
Doom scrolling, yeah. Or even seemingly innocent things like spending hours watching cooking videos if cooking isn't your main goal right now.
Precisely. The source actually suggests visually drawing a diagram of your time allocation. Where do the hours go?
That sounds confronting.
It can be, but it's powerful because it forces you to see the gap, the misalignment between what you say you want, maybe career growth, better health, and where your energy actually ends up. Hours scrolling, 0 hours on the new skill.
It kind of busts the myth of I'm too busy.
It totally does. Most people feel perpetually busy, but often they're busy on activities that are zero-sum or even actively harmful to their goals. The point here is brutal honesty. Identify the vortex. Because once you do, you suddenly find you have way more time than you thought.
And less anxiety, probably. More control.
And more control over your most precious resource, your attention, which directly feeds into point 3.
Point 3, prioritizing high return on investment activities, high-ROI.
Yes. This is presented as a pretty harsh but strategically vital principle.
Harsh how?
The source insists, and this is a key caveat, that if you are currently financially struggling, if you're in that broke hell they describe,
Yeah?
hobbies, passions, even some social activities that aren't directly productive, they need to be deferred, put on hold.
Wait, hang on. Defer all hobbies.
Yeah.
Completely. That sounds really grim, unsustainable even.
It does sound extreme, and the source acknowledges it's tough. But the argument is that misery is often prolonged by scattering your limited energy and time. When you're really struggling, time isn't a luxury to be spent on diffuse interests.
So the focus has to be laser sharp.
It has to be channeled, they argue, onto the absolute fastest path toward financial stability and freedom. It's positioned as a temporary sacrifice for a massive strategic gain. Once you achieve that stability, then you can consciously reintroduce hobbies and passions, but not during the crisis phase.
Okay, so the priority in that phase is only high-ROI activities that directly increase your value, your earning potential.
Exactly. We're not talking about generalized self-improvement here, like reading broadly. We're talking specific monetizable skills.
Which ties right into point 4 then.
Directly. Point 4 is acquire a high-income skill. This is framed as the single fastest way out of financial struggle.
And they gave examples.
Yeah, modern, high-value examples. Learning to code, understanding AI and its applications, getting genuinely skilled in finance, and investing not just basic budgeting, but real wealth-building skills.
So the message is, stop wasting time on low-income activities or skills that won't move the needle financially.
Pretty much. The argument is that doing so just guarantees you stay stuck in that broke hell for longer. The quickest escape route is acquiring a skill that the market highly values.
All right, so the mind's getting clear, the nervous system's calming down, time is managed strategically. Now we move to the external, how you actually show up in the world. Point 5, physical presence and presentability.
Yes. And the source makes a really strong opening statement here. Plastic surgery. That's the absolute very last resort.
Not the first step.
Definitely not. They assert that genuine physical ugliness as a fixed state is incredibly rare, like 0.001% rare. For almost everyone else, the issue isn't fundamental flaws, it's a failure to execute on the basics, the glow-up fundamentals.
Okay, let's get into those fundamentals. They were quite specific, starting with sleep.
Sleep is huge, non-negotiable, 7 to 9 hours. It's positioned as the bedrock for preventing fine lines, bad skin, acne, dark circles, not to mention just basic cognitive function.
Yeah, you can't function well on no sleep.
Right. And they shared this really potent anecdote about a guy who was super successful financially, but only slept like 2 hours a night.
He looked.
Apparently, he looked terrible, ill, unrecognizable, until he fixed his sleep and diet. It proved that the lack of basic care was the main reason he looked so worn down, not some inherent flaw.
Okay, so sleep, then obviously healthy eating, hitting the gym, those are foundational, but they also highlighted some less obvious things, like nonverbal communication, posture specifically.
Yeah, posture is crucial because insecurity broadcasts itself physically, doesn't it? Slouching, kind of shrinking your aura, avoiding eye contact.
It screams lack of confidence.
Exactly. It sends signals that contradict whatever confident words might be coming out of your mouth.
And then there was, okay, this one was interesting, tongue posture.
Ah, yes, tongue posture.
Suctioning your tongue to the roof of your mouth. That sounds like something from a deep corner of the internet. What's the claimed benefit here? Why is this considered high ROI?
It is unconventional, I'll grant you that. But the source presents it, sometimes called mewing in online circles, as a potential structural game changer over time.
Structurally. How?
Well, The claims are that consistent, proper tongue posture can actually improve facial bone structure over months. But perhaps more immediately impactful, they say it dramatically improves sleeping and breathing patterns.
Ah, so that connects back to sleep quality and maybe even nervous system regulation through better breathing.
That seems to be the connection, yes. Better breathing, better sleep, reduced mouth breathing, which all contributes to overall physical optimization and health. So, while it sounds odd, it fits into the system.
Okay. And finally, dressing better. Not necessarily buying a whole new wardrobe, but being more intentional.
Exactly. Focusing on quality over quantity, getting things tailored so they actually fit well, aiming for a more refined, classy look rather than just chasing trends. It's about presenting yourself with intention.
All these physical shifts, they argue, contribute to a more magnetic presence.
They do. And the source even made a specific point, particularly for men, that having a fit body and achieving a high income can significantly compensate for a face that someone might personally deem chopped or unattractive. It changes how you're perceived.
Which sets up the final 2 points, really bridging internal change with external reality. Point 8, get out of your comfort zone.
This is critical. It's the transition from just thinking about your new identity to actually living it. If you've done the work in point 1, define that new desired self.
Like the confident networker or the disciplined entrepreneur.
Then you must immediately start performing actions that align with that identity. Join the club, make the call, start the project. If you keep reverting to the old, comfortable patterns, you're just reinforcing the old identity you want to leave behind.
Action creates the proof. It makes the change real.
Undeniable proof, exactly, which leads directly to the final piece, point 9, the social strategy.
Yeah.
Building your social circle.
The environment factor. This is powerful.
Hugely powerful, one of the strongest external levers you can pull. The rule they state is simple, almost cliche, but true. You are the average, the sum of the people you spend the most time with.
So the advice is?
Actively, consciously distance yourself from the bummy friends, as the source puts it, the people who drag you down, reinforce negativity, or keep you small. And simultaneously, seek out people who already embody the identity you aspire to.
Find the Sarahs of the world, the confident, magnetic types you admire, and figure out how to get into their orbit.
Basically, yes. It's like identity transference through proximity. You start to absorb their mindset, their habits, their standards.
How do you do that practically?
The specific suggestion was to aim for at least one out-of-comfort-zone social activity per week. Maybe it's a professional meetup, a new fitness class with a different crowd, a networking event, something that pushes you.
Because that's a high ROI activity in itself.
Absolutely. It builds skills, it expands your network and opportunities, and, critically, it transforms your own self-perception by normalizing the behavior and environment you want. You know, what's really fascinating when you step back and look at all 9 points is the synthesis, how they connect. This isn't just a random list of self-help tips.
No, it's definitely presented as a system.
It really is. A systemic strategy that links the deep internal stuff identity, nervous system health, directly to how you operate in the external world, through managing resources like time and attention.
The ROI focus, the energy vortex.
Right, and through concrete physical actions and social strategies. It highlights that you can't just, say, fix your diet and expect transformation if your core identity is still negative or your nervous system is constantly, cooked.
It all has to work together. So what does this all mean for someone listening? What's the ultimate goal here?
Well, the goal of weaving these 9 points together is essentially to move you out of that passive reactive state, feeling stuck, broke, miserable, and into a state of strategic control, intentional self-creation.
Taking the driver's seat.
Exactly. But every single point really hinges on having the audacity, maybe, to take that first step, to look inward, understand the current wiring, and then commit to actively rewiring yourself mentally and physically. True transformation, according to this model, demands real rigor across multiple domains, and often, uncomfortable ones, simultaneously.
Okay, so here's a final thought to leave you with. If changing your external social circle, the people you hang out with, is considered such a high ROI move according to the strategy, what about the internal social circle? The constant chatterbox of thoughts you entertain all day long. Are those voices reinforcing your old, limiting identity? Or are they supporting the new, high-value self you're trying to build? That's definitely something for you to mull over. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.